This course is an overview of the new STAAR Alternate 2 state assessment. It is not intended to be used as the official test administrator or test coordinator training. STAAR Alternate Redesign. House Bill 5 of the 83rd Legislative Session called for a redesign of the STAAR Alternate Assessment. The agency, in conjunction with appropriate interested persons, shall redevelop assessment instruments adopted or developed under subsection B for administration to significantly cognitively disabled students in a manner consistent with federal law. An assessment instrument under this subsection may not require a teacher to prepare tasks or materials for a student who will be administered such an assessment instrument. Portfolios and performance-based assessments would not be allowed under this legislation because these types of assessments require the individualization of materials and task administration. Therefore, the Texas Education Agency designed a standardized item-based assessment. House Bill 906 of the 83rd Legislative Session stipulates that the agency may not adopt a performance standard that indicates that a student's performance on the alternate assessment does not meet standards if the lowest level of the assessment accurately represents the student's developmental level as determined by the student's admission, review, and dismissal committee. This legislation eliminates an assessment where the art committee or teacher decides the complexity level of the assessment based on individual needs. To meet these requirements, the redesigned assessment will not have complexity levels and will be a standardized assessment with items varying in difficulty throughout a single test. Although state legislation changed, federal law regarding the alternate assessment did not change. No Child Left Behind requires an assessment for students with significant cognitive disabilities that can be applied to 1% of the tested population for AYP purposes. The assessment still needs to cover the state curriculum through prerequisite skills. Thus, our vertical alignment documents and curriculum framework documents will continue to be the basis for instruction and the item development for the new test design. Characteristics of students with intellectual disabilities. IQ below 70, resulting in limited potential. Student unable to academically reach grade level, regardless of the quality of instruction. Poor social adaptability, resulting in dependence on others for daily living and employment. Differs from students with learning disabilities who have average intelligence, but have learning problems that make reaching their potential difficult. Test design components were based on student characteristics. Students with difficulty retrieving information. The test design has items grouped together in a cluster to limit transitions, provide context, and help link back to previous learning. Students with difficulty processing language. The test design has limited use of names, lengthy scenarios, or too much language to set up a problem. Simple noun-verb sentence, and limited use of pronouns. Concrete level of learning, abstract thinking difficult. Test design application items may not be at the same level of abstraction as non-disabled peer. Answer choices may be a little more obvious than usual. Application of learning to a new presentation. Cluster design. Extra text is added to help a student transition if one item is too different from the others in a cluster. Limited stamina to stay focused. The test can be given over multiple sessions. There are 24 test questions. Limitations in mobility and motor movement. Stimulus images from the student booklet can be copied and placed closer to the student or presented on a vertical plane. Problems with organization of visual images. Stimulus images can be copied and placed on cards, put in calendar boxes, or other organizational tools. Majority of the images are boxed to help alert the student to the individual answer choices. and then other specific needs due to individual disabilities, there is a list of approved accommodations. ARD responsibilities. In addition to providing evidence that all participation requirements have been met and the assurances have been addressed, the ARD committee will determine and document the needed accommodations for both instruction and assessment. The test administrator will determine the accommodations that will be used for a specific assessment based on the documented accommodations in the student's IEP and the TEA guidelines for allowable accommodations for STAAR Alternate 2. A student with a severe medical or cognitive impairment may not be able to complete any part of the assessment. For these exceptions, ARD committees can determine if a student's assessment can be coded as a medical exception or as no authentic academic response. For both exceptions, the ARD committee will make the determination after reviewing medical and educational records. The decision must be documented in the student's IEP along with evidence to support the determination. What's new is a medical exception. Students that are medically fragile and cannot attend to or tolerate any academic interaction can qualify for a medical exception for the following circumstances. The student is in the final stages of a terminal or degenerative illness. The student is receiving extensive short-term medical treatment due to a medical emergency or serious injury in an accident. The student is unable to interact with peers or staff without risk of infection or contamination to himself, herself, or others. The student is receiving non-academic homebound services due to medical issues and does not receive academic instruction. STAAR Alternate 2 Medical Exception Eligibility Requirements. At least one of the specific medical conditions listed should describe the medical condition of the student. The ARD committee must discuss the 3 assurances and initial them after they are discussed. The medical exception should be documented in the student's IEP and this form included in the IEP. Students are not required to participate in the administration of STAAR Alternate 2 for any courses or subjects for which they are enrolled in for the current year. A score code of M must be recorded for all tests the student would have taken. Campus testing coordinators for STAAR Alternate 2 will need to be notified of students who meet the criteria so they can be coded correctly. Also new is No Authentic Academic Response, or NAR. Students who are not able to respond authentically to any verbal, visual, or tactile stimuli during academic instruction due to level of cognition rather than a medical condition can qualify for a NAR exception if one of the 2 following student descriptions is evident. 1. Because of multiple impairments, the student is unable to receive information during instruction and assessment. For example, the student may have a combination of visual, auditory, and/or tactile impairments. 2. The student is consistently unable to provide an authentic academic response during instruction. His or her behavior may be described by one or more of the following characterizations. Does not show any observable reaction to a specific stimuli, exhibits only startle responses, tracks or fixates on objects at random and not for a purpose, moves or responds only to internal stimuli, vocalizes intermittently regardless of changes in the environment. No authentic academic response eligibility requirements. 1 yes will need to be circled on the form. The ARD committee must discuss the 2 assurances and initial them after they are discussed. The NAR designation should be documented in the student's IEP and this form included in the IEP. Students are not required to participate in the administration of STAAR Alternate 2 for any courses or subjects for which they are enrolled in for the current year. A score code of N must be recorded for all tests the student would have taken. Campus testing coordinators for STAAR Alternate 2 will need to be notified of students who meet the criteria so they can be coded correctly. M and N score codes. Counts for participation but does not count against campus district for performance and state accountability. Test design. There are 10 essence statements available for testing, 5 for the base test items and 5 for the field test items. 6 essence statements are measured, each with 4 items presented together in a cluster. Testing can be broken up over multiple sessions based on student need. However, a cluster of questions must be completed in a session, since students will not be allowed to go back to prior test questions. 6 clusters are tested, 24 items per test, 20 for the base test and 4 for the field test. The cluster design requires the student to make 6 concept transitions throughout the test. The 4 items per cluster range in difficulty, starting with the easiest item and moving toward the hardest item. The difficulty of the items is based on the skill being tested, the selected prerequisite skill, and what the student is being asked to do. Each item measures a specific prerequisite skill. Each student, regardless of ability, is expected to attempt all questions. Sample items. The prerequisite skills have been mapped out across all grades and subjects to ensure that the prerequisite skills increase in difficulty throughout the years. 4 similar prerequisite skills were selected when possible. There are times when the 4 items are not as cohesive due to the available prerequisite skills and the need to make sure that the items do not cue one another. Assistive technology. Assistive technology that is documented in the student's IEP and is used routinely in instruction may be used to provide the student access to the assessment. The use of technology should be used primarily for communicating an answer by the student or presenting answer choices by the test administrator. Because the assessment is secure, the use of some devices is not allowable. Instances when a device or procedure would not be allowed include tablets or computers with internet access that cannot be turned off, inputting answer choices into a device that has stored memory that cannot be erased. Allowable accommodations for STAAR Alternate 2. Accommodations to the 2-dimensional stimulus images, accommodations to limit number of images shown at one time, accommodations to language used in test administration instructions. All accommodations should be applied by the test administrator in accordance with the accommodations outlined in the student's IEP. Accommodations should be provided only when needed for student accessibility to the testing materials. If a student needs additional accommodations beyond what is described on this chart, contact TEA for guidance. Recording responses. After the student responds to each question, the test administrator will evaluate the response according to the scoring instructions. The test administrator will record the score on this document and use the information to complete the online transcription form in TestNav. The ABC determinations for each question, along with the accommodations used during the assessment, must be entered into TestNav. The form shown here is provided in the test materials and is required to ensure that the student performance is accurately transcribed into TestNav. Once the information has been transcribed, the test administrator will turn in the form to the testing coordinator. The form must be returned in the non-scorable shipment to the district testing coordinator. STAAR Alternate 2 Testing Window. Monday, December 29th, the window opens for additional material orders. Additional paper tests for new students to the district can be ordered at that time. On Friday, January 9th, the campus testing coordinator will submit a data file to the district testing coordinator for STAAR Alternate 2 students. A template will be provided. Thursday, January 15th, the district testing coordinator trains the campus testing coordinator on STAAR Alternate 2. Monday, January 19th is the date Pearson ships test materials to districts. We expect it in the district by January 21st through the 23rd. They will be delivered to campuses immediately. Prior to Friday, January 23rd, the campus testing coordinator completes training their test administrators. Test administrators cannot access test material until all training is completed. TEA just announced an extension of the preview window. It is now from the arrival of the test material to the campus until the end of the testing window. Preview test material to prepare accommodations for students. Material will be checked in and out every day from the secure storage area. Campuses with large numbers of students testing may need extra time for preparation. Teachers now have the flexibility to make adjustments to their accommodations as needed during the testing window. Humble ISD goal is for all accommodations for testing to be planned and prepared before the beginning of the testing window. TEA just announced an extension of the testing window for Monday, February 9th through Friday, February 27th. The testing window is now 15 days, but since we have a Monday, February 16th as a student holiday, we have 14 days to test. Any students enrolling in the district during the window will need to be tested. Friday, February 27th is the deadline for entering student test information into TestNav. TEA has added a 2-day window for districts to verify that all eligible students have been tested and that the data was entered. Wednesday, March 3rd, all non-scorable test material will be returned to the district testing coordinator, and the district testing coordinator will ship back to the vendor. Testing window guidelines. TEA just extended the testing window and the preview window. The testing window will be from February 9th until February 27th. Humble ISD goal to have the majority of students tested prior to the last week of the window. A preview period is allowed for the test administrators once the testing materials have arrived in the district and all appropriate training has been completed. Preparation can take place through the testing window. Test administrators can preview the test booklets and test administrator instructions for specific questions during this period to become familiar with the instructions, practice manipulating the test materials, planning teacher assists, and preparing accommodations to the student booklet. Humble ISD goal: all accommodations should be in place prior to February 9th. Testing materials must be checked out from the testing coordinator each day of the preview period and the testing window, and returned at the close of each day. This includes all photocopies of the images and text in the student booklet. A form to record daily checkout of materials is provided in the DCCM. Inputting performance data into TestNav can be done from February 9th until February 27th. The deadline for entering student data is Friday, February 27th. Humble ISD goal: have all student data entered by Thursday, February 26th. TEA has given districts Monday, March 2nd and Tuesday, March 3rd to verify all data has been entered and all eligible students were tested. Student absences and incomplete assessments. Every attempt must be made to complete the assessment during the window. Contact the district testing coordinator if there are any questions or concerns that come up during the testing window. If the assessment cannot be completed within the window, enter the score for the portion of the testing the student was able to complete into the online transcription form in TestNav. If a student cannot complete testing within the window due to his or her disability, contact the district testing coordinator for guidance. TEA will be contacted. A test administrator not having enough time is not a reason to contact TEA for guidance. Extensions only based on the disability of the student and must be approved by TEA in advance of the testing window. If the student is absent for the entire assessment window, his or her assessment should be marked with a score code of A for absent. The campus testing coordinator will need to complete the absent code form for their campus. Who can administer the test? The test administrator should be the student's teacher for the subject tested. However, other teachers who have a high level of familiarity with the student can serve as the test administrator. The test administrator must be familiar enough so that the testing accommodations can be prepared appropriately and the student's typical response modes can be understood. Certified and non-certified paraprofessionals who are currently employed in the district and routinely work with the student can serve as test administrator assistants. The test administrator assistant can provide assistance with preparing allowable accommodations, manipulating materials during the testing session, translating or signing information to the student, and/or managing behavior. All test administrators and test administrator assistants must be trained in test security and administration procedures prior to the assessment. All test administrators and test administrator assistants must have signed the test administrator's oath of test security and confidentiality. Paraprofessionals must be supervised by a certified professional on the same campus throughout the test administration. Districts allowing non-certified paraprofessionals to access secure materials or administer tests must identify a certified staff member who will be responsible for supervising these individuals. If a violation of test security or confidentiality occurs under these circumstances, the supervising certified professional is subject to the penalties below. Penalties for violation of test security or confidentiality could include the following: a placement of restrictions on the issuance, renewal, or holding of a Texas Educator Certificate, either indefinitely or for a set term, issuance of an inscribed or non-inscribed reprimand, suspension of a Texas Educator Certificate for a set term, or revocation or cancellation of a Texas Educator Certificate without opportunity for reapplication for a set term or permanently. It is Humble ISD policy that paraprofessionals are not used to administer state assessments. All photocopies of the images and text in the student booklet must be returned in the non-scorable shipment. Any accompanying pictures, objects, textured materials, or instructional tools do not need to be returned and should be shredded by the campus testing coordinator. Scoring documents need to be returned in the non-scorable shipment. Make sure that all assessments scored as medical exception M and no authentic academic response N are based on our decisions. Previewing STAAR Alternate 2 tests. Campus testing coordinators will be trained on how to handle the checkout of STAAR Alternate 2 tests during the preview period. Campus testing coordinators must use the material control form for the STAAR Alternate 2 during the preview period. Teachers will only be able to check out materials during the school day. All tested materials must be returned to the campus testing coordinator and checked in by the end of the school day each day in the window. Teachers will not be allowed to keep secure test materials overnight. Planning for STAAR Alternate 2 administrations. TEA is providing a 15-day window for STAAR Alternate 2 assessment of students. Within that 15-day window is President's Day, which is a student holiday for Humble ISD. When planning for the test administrations, campuses need to calculate the number of students that will be assessed, the number of test administrators, and the number of tests per teacher that must be assessed within the 15 or really 14-day period. Many students may not be able to have all 24 test items assessed at one time, so teachers will need to plan multiple opportunities to assess this population of students. Campuses need to discuss with their special ed department if there is a need for substitutes to cover for STAAR Alternate 2 teachers when they're previewing, preparing, and administering the assessment. Humble ISD has created a spreadsheet showing the number of students on each campus and the subjects to be tested. A campus planning guide has been developed to help campus leadership plan for testing. A teacher planning guide has been developed to help teachers plan out their tests during the testing window. Campus leadership should review the testing plans and schedules to ensure adequate staffing and facilities are available to complete the state assessment within the testing window. The setting for the assessment is similar to an individual or small group administration. Other students or staff members cannot be exposed to secure testing content. Planning for where the assessment will take place is crucial. This is the example of the campus planning guide. And this is the example of the teacher planning guide. Secure manuals and training. The difference between STAAR Alternate and STAAR Alternate 2 is that test administrators will no longer be required to view the training modules in the Test Training Center or pass qualifications that were previously required. All test administration information will be provided in the manuals and face-to-face trainings. Training is the same as any other STAAR assessment. The STAAR Alternate 2 manuals will include secure test information and must be locked up in a secure storage when not in use by test administrator. STAAR Alternate 2 manuals must be returned to the campus testing coordinator after the test administration has ended. Available now for test administrators to read is the unsecure front matter portion of the STAAR Alternate 2 Test Administrator Manual. Standard setting. After the 2015 February administration of STAAR Alternate 2, student scores will be used to set standards for the new assessment. A team of administrators, educators, parents, and other stakeholders will be assembled in April to review the scoring results and set a passing standard. Districts will receive confidential student reports for STAAR Alternate 2 at the same time as results are received for STAAR test takers. STAAR Alternate 2 score reports will include the individual performance level ratings of students, scaled scores, and number of questions answered correctly within each reporting category for each of the assessed grades and content areas. In summary, the new STAAR Alternate 2 is a paper test that is ordered by the campus testing coordinator. There is no paper answer document. The test administrator must enter answers online in test sessions set up in TAMS. STAAR Alternate 2 test administrators will administer the assessment one-on-one with a student and record answers on a student response form. The assessment does not have to be completed in one sitting and can occur over the 15-day assessment period. The student response form will be sent back to Pearson in non-scorable shipment. The STAAR Alternate 2 manual is a secure manual that has portions of the test in it. STAAR Alternate 2 test administrators will complete the same Humble ISD online security training as STAAR test administrators. There are 2 new score codes for the assessment, N and M, and campus testing coordinators will enter it online in TAMS. STAAR Alternate 2 is an untimed assessment and may take as long as necessary to be completed within the testing window. Some timing options include administering the assessment at a time that is most appropriate for an individual student, allowing breaks as necessary, administering the test over several days with several sessions per day, or administering the test over several days, one session each day. A session consists of the 4 questions in a given cluster. For more information about STAAR Alternate 2, reference the website for STAAR Alternate 2 at tea.texas.gov under Student Assessment, Special Ed, STAAR Alternate. The website includes sample questions, an educator guide, frequently asked questions, test administrator manual, allowable accommodations, participation requirements, the NAR or medical exception forms, essence statements, TEKS resources, and TETNs. All documents listed above and used in this presentation are also found on Moodle under the Campus Testing Coordinator program for STAAR Alternate 2. For questions, please contact your Campus STAAR Alternate 2 Testing Coordinator.